Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So sometimes in life, we come to a crossroad where our current paradigm, our current understanding of the way life rolls and the way it unfolds is sometimes so overwhelming that we need to actually change our current understanding of life in order to move ahead. And this pandemic, this coronavirus has done such a thing. It has made us understand that our current perspective of life and the way we understood it is not going to run us all the way to the end. We need to change. We need to assess ourselves at a deeper level in order to handle all the challenges that are coming all at once. And this is not easy because nobody prepares for such a scenario where one's own life is at risk, where one's job is at risk, where one's family is at risk, where one's stability in every aspect of life is being challenged to the ultimate degree. But fortunately for us, 5,000 years ago, this warrior Arjuna was in a similar situation where the way he understood life was not going to be the way he's going to end life. That means he's going to have to make certain adjustments to himself as a lifestyle in order to be able to continue with life. Otherwise, life is not going to be the same anymore. So we can relate very easily to this situation as we find ourselves in the same right now. So as we're trying to understand this, yesterday Krishna introduced something phenomenal to Arjuna. That there's a state of being, Arjun. That Arjun, it's a mindset. It's a state of being. If you switch, if you create that proper mindset, which Krishna called the divine consciousness, Samadhi stasya Keshava. Arjuna asked, how does he develop that mindset of being in samadhi or in a divine state, even though externally everything is breaking down around him? How does he be indifferent? And in today's verse, Krishna is going to explain the details of the state of being or state of mind. So let's take a look at this. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse number 55. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajanati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmani evatmana tushtha stita pragna stadochyate. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead said. So when this phrase comes in Bhagavad Gita, it's a very powerful statement because Krishna speaking directly. And his instructions are coming from the spiritual platform. So whenever we read Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, we want to listen very attentively because it's defining markers that Krishna is advocating being situated from the spiritual platform. So let's see what he says. O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction. So over the past few days, we've been hearing about this divine state of consciousness. And Arjuna heard this and he's saying, oh, tell me more, Krishna. Sthita pragya ka bhashasa samadhi stasya keshava sthita dhir kim prabhaseta kim aseta brajeta kim. That Krishna, please tell me about this samadhi stasya Keshava. Oh Keshava, please tell me about the state of samadhi, that a person can attain a state of being where he is undisturbed by the external environment. And we see the growth of this concept very earlier on in the Bhagavad Gita when we discussed the dhira. So from the dhira state, we gradually move to the kutastha, the one who is steady. And then from the kutastha, the one who is fixed, now he's evolved to the sthita pragya. So the three stages of evolution of consciousness that Krishna has explained thus far, from dhira to kutastha to sthita pragya. From the Dhira, one who assesses matter, spirit, nature, the soul and the supersoul, to the Kutastha, the one who is fixed and steady in his mind, to Sthita Pragya, the one whose consciousness is reposed to the spiritual platform, therefore giving him an experience of constant samadhi or being indifferent to the material world. So this Arjuna has been hearing about these three levels of evolution of the same thing, of the same person, but deeper and deeper and deeper understanding of this concept. And now in today's verse, Krishna is explaining what is the foundation of this. That the primary level of foundation is to give up the idea of sense gratification. Oh, this is a big problem, right? Wrong. This is not a big problem. This is a switch of the mind. Krishna is not saying don't enjoy through the senses. He is saying don't enjoy it separately. If you enjoy it separately, it becomes karma kanda. If you purify it first by connecting it to the spiritual platform, it becomes prasadam. It becomes the mercy of the Lord. And in that way, you can enjoy the same thing, being spiritualized, being connected with spiritual energy. Can you imagine the experience of that object then when it's imbued with spiritual energy? So this is what he's saying. He's not saying give up sense gratification, become a Babaji, live in the forest, renounce your home, renounce your family. No. He's not saying any of that. He's saying, Arjun, make the switch from enjoying separately where you are self-centered to God-centered. Make the switch to the Sthita Pragya, to the state where one is connected to the spiritual platform, and in that way experiencing all of life, all of creation, but with the consciousness of it being purified, with the consciousness of it first being offered on the spiritual platform and then enjoyed. That is its ultimate state. And as Krishna is saying today, if you enjoy sense objects just on its own and separate, then it's just going to agitate you more for two reasons. One, it's temporary. Second, you're not going to be satisfied. So nothing in the material world can satisfy you. But when you connected on the spiritual platform with spiritual consciousness and the object has become spiritualized, in that state it will create a sense of well-being, satisfaction. You cannot get that out there in the material world. So he goes on, and when his mind thus purified finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So you see, what needs to be purified is your mind. If the mind is connected right and if the mind is purified, then the thoughts will be purified. And if the thoughts are purified, then the words will be purified. And if the words are purified, then the actions will be purified. So he's saying if you make the switch of creating a lifestyle which is designed around transcendence, a lifestyle which is designed around spiritual energy, by energizing everything around you with spiritual energy. This is the ultimate energy source. If you connect your whole life and your whole being from a transcendental spiritual level, in that way your mind will be purified, and thus whatever you want to enjoy from the level of the mind will also become imbued with that spiritual energy, and you can also enjoy that. So just to clarify, Krishna is not saying give up sense gratification. He is saying give up the idea of enjoying separate from the Lord. Give up the idea of enjoying separate from offering the object first. Once you offer it in the right place to the right person, it becomes imbued with spiritual energy. Then it becomes prasadam. And everything around you can become prasadam. Gradually your whole life becomes mercy bound. Your whole life becomes full of mercy. And when you're full of mercy, then you have compassion, and then you want to give mercy to others. So Krishna is saying here, only then can one find satisfaction in the self. So if you want to experience satisfaction in life, stability in life, All these qualities only arise if one's mind is purified, if one's mind is connected in the right place. Remember how the mind is being agitated by desires coming from millions of lifetimes. They're all surfacing up at one time. And the desires that are being accumulated right now, they are also bombarding the mind. So day and night, the mind doesn't rest. It's constantly agitated with thoughts and desires and feelings and emotions, because all of this are connected emotionally. And when one chooses one of these desires, then he starts to manifest the desire for it, which has a resultant of being temporary and binding. So you see the vicious cycle that the unpurified mind creates. But the same mind which is purified, it doesn't have a material result. It's not temporary, and it's not binding, just because it has become purified. Therefore, the divine consciousness is offer the whole mind. Offer the whole thing. Offer everything. Offer the whole mind on the spiritual platform. And that is what mantra is about. Mantra means that which controls the mind. So the devotee is a person who offers their whole mind on the spiritual platform. Krishna, you take care of this. All my previous millions of lifetimes, all those desires and all the desires that are coming now in this lifetime. Krishna, you take all of this and purify it for me. And when once it is purified and then you enjoy it, that becomes prasadam. So you see what a wonderful process this can become if one is connected properly. Let's see what he says here in the purport. The Bhagavatam affirms that any person who is fully in Krishna consciousness, remember, Krishna consciousness is the process that connects the soul to the spiritual platform. That process is called Krishna consciousness. So as he goes on, or devotional service of the Lord has all the good qualities of the great sages, whereas a person who is not so transcendently situated has no good qualifications, because he is sure to be taking refuge in his own mental concoction. So why is he comparing this? Because only a sage knows the technique of how to connect and spiritualize his whole life. So usually when one thinks of a sage, you're imagining somebody who has to give up the world and give up a lot of his enjoyments. No, that's a false and it's a wrong notion. If you connect it and spiritualize it, why can't you enjoy it? This is the point. This is what Krishna is saying. Just spiritualize it. Once it's spiritualized, it's prasadam. And once it's prasadam, it's meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be honored. So therefore he's saying, learn this technique of not only offering food as prasadam, offering your whole life as prasadam. Everything that's connected to you, offer it, whatever you do. And this is what Krishna is saying. Yat karosi, yat asnasi, yat johosi dadasi yat, tat tapasyat konteya, yat kurusva mat arpanam. He's saying yat karosi. Karo means to do. Yat karosi. Of course, in Tamil, karo means very hot curry, very hot food. But in Hindi, karo means to do. So yat karosi, whatever you do. Yat asnasi, whatever you eat. Anna means grain or food. Yat asnasi, whatever you eat. Yat johosi, whatever you give away in charity. Remember, the principle of charity was based on action and reaction. That we realize we are not the sole proprietors of our actions. So many other factors have to be in perfect arrangement before we get what we want. So therefore, as an oblation, we offer charity. We take our quota and we give the rest back in charity to all those elements or all those agents which facilitated me getting what I wanted. So he's saying if you work, then charity must be a result, because you are not the sole proprietor of everything that you worked for. So yat johosi dadasiyat, and then tat tapasyat kontiya. And if whatever austerities you do, whatever fasting will you do, whatever prayers you do, Tat tapasyatu kaunteya. Do it for me, Arjun. Do it also for me. And what will be the result? Yat kurusva mat arpanam. Yat kurusva mat arpanam. Arpanam is to worship. So do this as worship to me. That means it's become a lifestyle. That means if you follow this one verse, this is a lifestyle. This is completely a lifestyle. And this is what Krishna is saying. Design your life. Create a lifestyle of worship. Create a lifestyle of purifying everything on the spiritual platform. So we can see the mental concoction means he's connecting with the previous desires from previous lives, and he's connecting with the desires from this life, and he's not purifying either. And that unpurified desires is creating agitation. It's agitating his mind because it's not purified, it's contaminated. But the same thing connected on the spiritual platform becomes a purified mind. And when the mind is purified, it has spiritual energy, one can create magic in one's life. So he goes on by saying, consequently, it is rightly said herein that one has to give up all kinds of sense desire manufactured by mental concoction. So what he's saying is, don't act on those material desires which are not purified. They are coming from mental concoction, and if you're going to respond to them, which one you're going to choose, how it's going to bind you, how unsatisfied you're going to feel, all of those symptoms are going to be your problem. But if you connect it on the spiritual platform, it becomes prasadam. So just see a simple switch of mind, a simple state of being. What a drastic result of life in the way you enjoy the quality of your life, simply by making this switch. Just see. So he justifies the difference in these two states of being, the material contaminated state of the mind and the spiritualized purified state of the mind. And he's describing the experience of both. Let's see what he says here. Artificially, such sense desires cannot be stopped. So he's saying, don't stop them. Sift through which ones you want to respond to. You can't respond to all of them. That's not possible. Never. Because you have unlimited millions of desires you want to fulfill. And none of those can be, and you can't respond to all of them. So first get the practical part right. You're not going to be able to respond to all of them. So choose the ones that you want. And once you've chosen the ones you want, don't stop them. Just purify it on the spiritual platform. That's it. It's as simple as that. That's why practically Prabhupada is saying, artificially these things cannot be stopped. What is the Buddhist trying to do? What is the Jnanis trying to do? Oh, sense gratification is binding, give it up. This is the common notion we understood, right? As spiritual life means give up all the sense gratification. No, if it's prasadam, why you want to give it up? If you learn the art of spiritualizing it and it's coming from God, He's the proprietor of all of this. By negating it, by rejecting it, you're insulting Him. You're saying, what is this foolish things you created here? I can't even use it and be happy. The problem is not God. The problem is you don't know how to understand it. You don't know how to see it. But with a purified mind, with purified senses, one can immediately experience a spiritual sense of satisfaction from the same thing that you would have rejected. So Prabhupada is saying the idea of rejecting and renouncing, what is yours in the first place to renounce? This is not even yours. It belongs to God. And you're saying, oh, I renounce it. As if it's yours. So that's the first point. Secondly, it cannot be stopped. If you think I'll just stop all this desire, I'll just stop all these desires and I'll just... That also is not possible because the soul anandamayo bhyasat, it needs ananda. It needs happiness to be satisfied. All you have to do is connect it on the spiritual platform. That's it. And then it becomes prasadam. So having said that it can't be stopped, what is the hope for people? What can people do then? There's the remedy. This is what he's saying. Let's see what he says here. But if one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, then what happens? Then automatically sense desires subside without extraneous effort. You see, because that spiritual energy, that purified energy does something to you. It does something to those desires. So what is the result? The agitation stops. You don't get agitated anymore. Why? Because you've chose the ones that you want to satisfy. You're not confused about looking at all of them. It's like taking a child to a toy shop and say, pick a toy, and there's millions of toys there. You become confused. You become you don't know what to do because you want to which one to choose now. But that spiritual energy gradually connects with the purified mind and starts to pacify the mind. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Gradually the mind becomes Shanti. And it's not that it's not going to have any desires, but it's going to have prominent ones and ones that you really want to do and really want to connect, and you're not confused anymore. Remember, Arjuna started by being confused. Karpanya dosha prahatasva bhava prichanti tvam dharma samodacheta. That I'm confused what I should do about my dharma. So Krishna is saying, why? Because your mind is contaminated. But with a purified mind, there's no confusion. You see, a spiritual person is not confused about any part of life. Sees it for what it is, not greater than what it is, and responds accordingly, not reacts. So he goes on here. Therefore, one has to engage himself in Krishna consciousness without hesitation, for this devotional service will instantly help one onto the platform of transcendental consciousness. So he's saying, look at the deal I'm offering you here. It's such a good deal. One should instantly take to this devotional practice and one will immediately feel the relief. Immediately, because the agitation of the mind will stop. This is one of the biggest problems we have as human beings. We have an uncontrolled mind. It's unbridled. And an uncontrolled mind is a devil's workshop. It can create havoc in your life. So if the mind is purified by connecting it on the spiritual platform, immediately Shanti, 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 you become peaceful. So he concludes here, the highly developed soul always remains satisfied in himself by realizing himself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. So once you know your Father and once you know that He's the one who's taking care of everything for you, where's the agitation? Where's the disappointment? So he concludes here, such a transcendently situated person has no sense desires resulting from petty materialism. Rather, he remains always happy in his natural position of eternally serving the Supreme Lord. So you can see Prabhupada clarifying here very deeply that materialism is a state of mind. Something is material because it's just not purified by the spiritual energy yet. That's all. And materialism is the process of enjoying the material things without offering it on the spiritual platform first. But the same thing can be relished, can be enjoyed at the spiritual platform as prasadam, as soon as one knows the technique of how to offer it. And what an amazing lifestyle one can enjoy. Complete, every part of one's being becomes connected with spiritual energy. One becomes a spiritual vortex. He becomes a spiritual energy field, and he completely purifies everything around him and everyone around him just by changing his state of mind, just by changing his state of being.